Welcome to Women of a Certain Stage, the podcast redefining how we think about menopause. I'm your host, Lauren Chiren, a passionate advocate for breaking the stigma and empowering individuals to navigate this transformational stage of life with confidence and clarity. Here, we're diving into a new era of menopause support, featuring expert advice, real-life stories, and actionable insights. Whether you're curious about building your personal menopause plan or you're looking to make an impact, you're in the right place. Let's embrace the change together. I am super excited to welcome you to the Women of a Certain Stage podcast, Liz, and I'm so excited that you found the programme really valuable. I'd love you to tell people that are listening a little bit about your backgrounds and what perhaps brought you towards training to become a menopause coach.
Okay. I've been in payroll for over 3 decades, and that's always been my line. Quite varied within that remit, so educating as well as managing teams and working with organisations, creating new ways of learning and development. So I've worked with lots of businesses, I've worked with lots of students. And more recently, I moved to an organisation where I was helping to manage the payroll for 47,000 employees.
No,
totally. It's one of those areas where people only shout when there's something wrong.
Yeah.
But I noticed that just as we went into COVID, I was starting to have the hot flushes. And having had a hysterectomy, I'd taken the surgeon at his word when he said, menopause is hereditary, so you'll suffer the same as your mum did. And I'd spoken to my mum and she said, oh, I just had a few hot flashes, and made it sound so easy. So I had an injection that stopped my periods because I'd got a fibroid, which was why I had the hysterectomy. And yes, I experienced those hot flashes. They're starting through the stomach, rising up, and your hair just goes limp. It was awful. And I used to present as well whilst I was doing that, but that was a number of years ago, and certainly I didn't know it was on the radar for people. But because I knew I'd had the hot flushes before, then I knew it was menopause related. But I also started putting on weight. And I remember my mum vaguely where she'd put on weight but lost it quite quickly. My mum's not with us, so I can't ask her anymore. So I thought, I'm going to work through this. I'm going to power my way through this. And throughout COVID, because we had such lovely weather, and although I was working long hours, when I wasn't working, I was exercising, and it did seem to just disappear. And so I thought, hey, I've done it. I've battled it. Until I was poorly one Christmas, and it all just hit me like a ton of bricks. And I had, the sleep. I wasn't sleeping. I was getting anxious. I had a couple of weeks off work because I went on holiday and then just felt I couldn't go back. I was having the imposter syndrome, and I'd adapted. I'd got approval at work to adjust my hours because I wanted to spend more time with grandchildren. So I'd condense my hours. So I wasn't doing any less. I was doing the same, but in less time.
So you're doing a 9-day fortnight?
Yes. Yeah, that's right. And I just got to the stage where I thought, I'm not doing my job. I felt as though I'd taken a step back and I was just letting everybody else do the projects that came along. I couldn't remember things. I couldn't get my words out. I called people by the wrong names. And I just knew that I wasn't where I could be in the workplace.
It's really interesting, isn't it, that, we go through all of these things and yet no one's reaching out to us and saying what we do to help and support. There's no proactivity from that side of things. So it was interesting, that you decided to take a step back to spend more time with grandchildren. But what was it genuinely you want to take more time for grandchildren, or do you think there was a myriad of things going on that felt like a good way forward?
I think it was like a myriad of things. I'd recently lost my mum. I'd recently lost my 16-year-old pet. So yeah, and I was a new grandmother. So there was a lot of things that were going on. So yes, I think it was a build up.
Yeah, menopause definitely hits us when we've got our plate full, that's for sure.
Yes.
So what then made you kind of take all of that and decide that you wanted to do something with that experience?
Well, whilst I was at work and I'd put in for a sabbatical, I'd actually handed in my notice, and my manager said, would you like a sabbatical instead? Because we do value you. Which was great and which was lovely. And, my manager was so supportive from that side of things that he was brilliant. So I said, okay, I'll take it. I thought about it, spoke to my husband, said, yes, I'll take a sabbatical and see what it's like. And as I was going into that, I'd seen your website, and I'd registered for the newsletters or for the emails. And as they were coming through, it all resonated with me. So I was reading them and thinking, yes. And so, but I was too busy at work. I just couldn't do anything whilst I was at work. There was no time. So when my sabbatical started, I contacted you. We had the conversation, and I just thought it's for me. It just hit home, and I just felt it was the right thing to do. So that was when I spoke to you. We had the conversation, and after that, I thought, and I spoke to my husband again and said, this is what I'm thinking of doing, and I just went for it. So I hadn't seen any other courses. I hadn't that had picked up that I'd picked up that I thought, oh yes, I want to do that. And just speaking to you weren't pushy, you weren't trying to sell me anything. We just had a natural conversation. And I just podcast. And I was doing it for me because I wanted to learn about menopause. So at that time I was still in employment, and I wasn't thinking I'm going to set up as a coach. I just wanted to learn about menopause for me.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because I always say to people when they come on board that first module, when we're learning all about menstruation and menopause, and we've got the experts coming in, I always say, don't worry about what you're going to do with this. Don't worry about the future, because whatever you're thinking you're going to be doing, whatever you think today that you're going to be doing then is probably going to change. And I see it every single time. People collaborate, people decide to go and work in corporate when they never thought of working in corporate. People decide to work one-to-one or one-to-many when they thought they were going to do the opposite. And I just really love watching as people's, ideas change about why they're on the program. And, I think the why is what brings you to it, but then what you end up doing. So what was it during the 18 weeks that you enjoyed the most or was most surprised by?
I loved the whole 18 weeks, to be honest with you, because, we'd got a cohort from so many different countries that you were on FaceTime with, or, whilst we were learning, and you've got the expert speakers coming in, and I learned so much about menopause, which in my naivety, I just didn't know about. I mean, I'd never even considered that there was a perimenopause and a post-menopause. So the learning from that side was really invaluable. Then to go into the coaching and learning that side, talking more with the cohort and working together, going through the menopause plan itself, that was really helpful as well. And I thought, while we were doing that, and I thought, I want to help people here. I want to help others go through what I've been going through and try and make it easier for them.
Yeah. So I've got a question for you, because this is something I'm always curious about. I always say to the cohort, right, I want you to be my coaching client when I take you through the menopause plan. And some people do, and other people try and study how I'm delivering it, even though I definitely say, please don't do that. But which category did you fall into? Did you actually allow yourself to have the benefit of being coached through that plan, or did you try more to study what was going on, what was happening. How did that land for you?
I would say I tried a bit of both, because having managed teams for a number of years, then coaching it's like an expansion of what I was doing. So, but I wanted to benefit from the program itself as well, to be able to pass that learning on and that knowledge on to whoever I then went on to coach.
And how did you go about finding your practice clients?
That seemed quite easy, really. I'd got quite a few friends who said, "Oh, I'll do it," and I was like, "No, you can't, because you're my friend. I've got to do it with someone I don't know."
Brilliant.
So my friends then I'd got one friend who spoke to a friend who said she'd like to do it, so signed them up. And then, as it happened, my financial advisor's wife had just had a hysterectomy, and he said, "I think she might like to do it." And so he spoke to her, and she did. So I took her through it as well. But in the meantime, another friend whose daughter was a 34 and had a hysterectomy, then I agreed to coach her as well. She was like a backstop, but I ended up coaching all three. Very different, but very good.
Yeah, and I think it's really fascinating how different people take different things away from it as well. So when we get the feedback from the practice clients, I always find it fascinating to see in that final session, especially, just what they've thought about the whole program and what they've thought about their coach during that process as well. And that gives me invaluable insights. And your feedbacks were great. They were really good.
I think the one thing that I felt was probably common between all of them was they said it was great having that space to talk openly. And especially the younger client, because she didn't have any friends who were going through the same thing. I think they all felt that having that space had been so important and so helpful for them.
And I think that was one of the very first things I figured when I left work thinking that I had early onset dementia, was the fact that no one was reaching out to me or talking to me about this. I was super busy as a new mum. I was super busy at work. I didn't have time or space really for much of a social life back then. And therefore, I felt like I was in this vacuum of going through this experience, not knowing what it was, no one to talk to. So the very first thing I did was set up the Menopause Social Hangout, which was getting people together to talk. No sales, no nothing like that, just getting people to talk. And that was when I discovered that people actually, even people that have got a good social life, don't have that one person that really listens to them without interrupting or trying to tell them what to do. And that's, for me, is the beauty of coaching and where the Menopause Coach Diploma came from. So, it's really interesting to hear you say that was the common thread amongst all three of them.
Well, that's led me as well to set up a menopause café in the village. So I went to, because I'd had from the menopause plan and deciding and all the menopause information that we'd been receiving, I decided that my goal was to actually put something together to be able to take to the GP and ask to go on HRT, because I'd felt that I'd been trying to battle it myself for so long, and it was now time to try something different.
Amazing.
So I had not a totally great experience at the GPs, because 5 visits later and 5 different GPs. I actually got to speak to the advanced nurse who said she was the menopause go-to at the surgery, along with one of the other GPs, but one I hadn't met.
Ironic.
And so on speaking to her, she actually changed the HRT I was using from a patch to a gel, but then said, "I'll book you in a fortnight to come in and see how you're getting on." So, which was great. I thought, yes, this is brilliant. So when I went back, we were talking all about how I was getting on and treatment and that side of things. And at the end of it, I said to her, I said, "I've just qualified as a menopause coach." I said, and I did say, I've been thinking about setting up a cafe. And she just went, "Do it." She says, "Do it." She says, "I've got patients that I can tell, I can pass them on." and get them to come along, she said, and I can look at coming to join as well, because it will develop community in relationships in the community. So
that's brilliant.
Yeah.
That is brilliant.
Yeah.
Amazing. So how's that going?
Well, I've got the posters out. I've had to set up Facebook, which is something that I've never been on. So a lot of learning on that side of things, trying to get friends set up. I've set up a Menopause Cafe page as group, a private group, so that people can go into that. So yeah, so I've got it all set up. I've just now got to engage people and get people to join. But because I'm holding it at the library, the library have put it onto their website, and I'm going around the village asking people to put posters up. So we'll see. We'll see. It kicks off in November, so we'll see how many people turn up.
Oh, that's perfect. What a great time as well, because there's so much awareness about menopause right now that, it's a great time. At the point of us recording this, we're coming up to World Menopause Day. By the time you're listening to this, it's probably going to be just after Liz has started the menopause cafes in her village. So I think we maybe loop back round with you next year and get an update and see how you're getting on then.
Yeah.
So if someone was listening to this and thinking about actually wanting to make a difference and help other people and thinking about doing the Menopause Coach Diploma, what would you say to them about that?
Oh, without a doubt, without any hesitation, I'd say go ahead and do it.
Yeah.
It's the learning for yourself, but it's also the being able to help others as well. It's just great.
Amazing. And so tell me about what you're up to now. Are you at work? Have you left work? Where are you at with everything?
No, I actually once I finished coaching my 2 practice clients, I contacted my manager and said I'm not coming back. He was disappointed, but he said he was glad that I'd had the sabbatical to have the time to think about it, which was great. So my contract ended at the end of August. I'm actually going out with them next week and having a catch up with them next week. So trying to kick off the menopause side of things. So I've set up Liz Lay Menopause. I'm putting posts on LinkedIn to let people know what I'm doing, and just working out, trying to progress it from there. I've had a yoga teacher say to me that they'd be interested in working with me to do retreats. So that's something that I'm going to look into as well, because I think an intensive weekend for working women would be great for them.
I think so. And that's one of the biggest growing healthcare industries as well, is retreats and wellbeing retreats, wellness retreats. So I think that'll be an amazing opportunity. So watch this space. Make sure you pick up Liz's contact details from underneath the show notes. So what else? What is it that you're most excited about doing going forward? This is a big shift from going from working in payroll for all that time. And, I used to be working transformation, looking after HR. So I did payroll auto enrollment. I did all the kind of regulatory changes that happened in the payroll space for a number of years. And it's a busy old space, but you're always on. There's always something to be done. And with 47,000 people, there's always last minute changes. And like you said, people only shout when something's gone wrong. They haven't got their pay. They're less likely to come and tell you if they've been overpaid. But, these things come out in the reports and the wash as well. So there's a big shift from going from that to this. So during your sabbatical, what have you loved the most about your sabbatical and not having to get up at the same time every day and then get logged on and deal with all the questions that you get on a day-to-day basis? What's the most kind of amazing thing about not having that anymore?
I think it's the reduction of pressure. It was good during the sabbatical to have the deadline of that's my 6-month sabbatical, so that's what I'm working towards. But there was no pressure getting up each day. So I did get up at the same time each day still. I had got things to do, and I was still training for the menopause. But not having, whilst training, not having that homework that you've got to do this, you've got to get that done. It's a case of there's all of this information, but you can study it as and when in your own time. And in fact, if you don't want to do that additional, you don't have to. But if you do, there's lots of it for you to work through. So I would say what I enjoyed the most was the pressure being lifted, but being able to study in an enjoyable way.
And how much additional time, because I ask this question of all my grads when I'm speaking to them, and I'm always curious how much extra time people do, because obviously it's been designed so the majority of it is in those 2 hours on a Friday. But then we have this massive library and bonus sessions and all these other things as well that are completely optional. But how much or how little of all of that did you use at the time?
I used to spend every Friday. I dedicated my Fridays to being my menopause day. So I did a lot of it on the Fridays, but I did find that I was also buying books and listening to podcasts. So I was doing that as well, but not feeling as though it's something I had to do. It was just I like reading, so I was reading additional information and hearing different podcasts as well.
And now people will be able to listen to you on this podcast talking about the experience, so you'll be getting the questions from other people. And I think that's the other thing I love is that I recognise in most companies that you go to do training with, like once your training's done, it's kind of like you're done, you're finished. Whereas I'm looking for every possible way to promote you in the work that you're going to do going forward as well, which is why, the recommendations on LinkedIn or the video recommendations or the podcast, I can signpost people to you. So if anyone's listening and Liz's story resonates, if you get in touch and speak to her about her experience and then you sign up, then that just helps us build the community. It helps us network and, share the experiences. Because I can say why I've created it, but it's not about that. It's about the people that then come and train and then go and do the work. And that's where the magic often happens as well. So you've been in a really powerful cohort that have really stuck together post the events of graduating. So tell me a little bit more about your cohort and where you're at with all of that now.
We had a cohort of 36, I think it was, from 14 different countries. And some of the cohort were quite vocal and extrovert, whereas some were quite introvert. I can be a bit of both sometimes. So on the whole, I like to listen until I feel confident in what I'm listening to and what I know, and then I'll chip in, or if I've got experience of something. But the cohort, during the menopause plan, and we were talking to different members of the cohort, and that's where people started to gel. But we were very keen on having a WhatsApp group set up. So I think we pestered you to get a WhatsApp group, which has been absolutely brilliant. Because even though there was the community on the portal, the WhatsApp group it's very much in real time and comes through to you on something that you've already got. So and we share all sorts on there. So any questions, we haven't got any qualms about putting it in there. And if people always seem to know something in the answer. So I've had questions on what do I do with WhatsApp, and others have had what do I do with LinkedIn, and we can all help each other out there, and we've shared experiences. So that's been really good. But also there was Pauselive at the weekend, which has just gone, and there was 9 of us that were at that. So we all actually got to meet face to face.
That was amazing.
So
I love seeing the photographs.
So I think there'll be quite a few of the cohort who do keep in contact with each other.
And I think the power of community is often underestimated, especially in today's day and age where people are so busy online and everything can become very transactional, that we forget actually that human interaction is so powerful and so needed as well. We need it for mental health. We need it to have that validation. There's only so much you can get from AI or an online experience. I think the fact that you guys got together and you'd all plan to see each other and get together and use that community to do that, so that was amazing. Liz, what have I not asked you about that you'd like to share?
You've kind of touched on it, but I don't think I actually answered it. But being in payroll, I stayed in that profession because I was passionate about it. and raising the profile of it. And I think that's why I enjoyed it for so many years.
Yeah.
With menopause, I think that's the same. I think, we need to be raising awareness. I know it's definitely increasing, but I think there's still a lot to do. And another area where I would like to get into is working with organisations, because I think men should have as much awareness of menopause as women do, to be able to help in the workplace. Because like you said, at the very, very beginning, nobody says, how can I help you? So I think it's so important for men to feel as though they've got a safe and secure environment as well to talk about menopause. Because in one of my posts, I did put, every man knows somebody who's in or going to go into menopause.
100% agree. I think that I live in quite an industrial area where I've got a lot of aerospace and a lot of engineering firms, and often I just do lunch and learns for the men. So I'll go in, and as their shifts rotate, they'll come in and we'll sit down, we'll spend 25 minutes, 35 minutes just talk about menopause, their personal experiences. And one gentleman in particular had gotten divorced and then remarried, and he was about to get divorced again. And then when I'd gone through the session with him for the first time, he declared that, I think it was menopause that had led to the first divorce and was about to lead the second one. And he didn't get divorced because he went home and he spoke to his wife and they worked their way through it. And now I get an email every year on the anniversary of that first session I did with them, just telling me how great things are and how they worked their way through it, just with that knowledge. And I think that it's so powerful when we have the knowledge, then we can make a difference and we can work together and we can communicate. And I always say to men, look, we don't want to be fixed. Right? We don't want to be fixed. We just want to be listened to. And I think when the penny drops, it can have such a profound impact on people's relationships in all areas of their life. So I'm excited to see what you do with that space as well.
Yes. So it is a case of watch this space, because we'll see where it goes.
Amazing. Liz, thank you so much for your time today. I'm definitely going to look back around with you in a few months and just see exactly where you're at and what you're doing. Any closing thoughts before we wrap up today?
Whilst we were training, there were some phrases that you used to say which used to keep me going completely, and the rest of the cohort used to raise them as well. And you always used to say, trust the process. You are where you're meant to be. And I don't forget those.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. I look forward to chatting with you again soon.
Great. Thanks very much, Lauren. Thanks for inviting me.
Thank you for joining me on Women of a Certain Stage. I hope today's episode inspired you to think differently about menopause and the incredible opportunities this stage of life brings. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with 3 friends who need to hear this message. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a review. It helps us reach even more people. You can connect with me on LinkedIn at Lauren Chiren, or visit our website at womenofacertainstage.com to learn more about menopause coaching, inspiring events, and corporate training. Until next time, let's continue making a difference, one conversation at a time.